Hi, in this video we are going to discuss about the test plan contents. So in the previous video we have seen what is STLC and what are all the phases are there. So continuation to that, in this video we are going to see what are all the various test plan contents will be there, what we are going to put each and every section. So those all things very clearly we are going to discuss. So this is about the test plan contents. Usually this template is not common to all the companies. Company to company the template may vary, or they may add few more sections into their company template, or some more sections may not be there in other company, but somehow. So this is the common template, but most of the companies are using that. I am explaining it to you. Okay, so coming to the test plan contents, first one, introduction, purpose, what is the scope and goals, what features we need to test, what are all the different definitions and abbreviations, what is the references required to prepare this plan. So like this, these are all the 25 sections are there. Let me discuss each and every section very clearly in this video. The first section, introduction. What is introduction? This will talks about overview of the test plan document. Why we are preparing this test plan, they are going to put it into a introduction section. Purpose. What is the purpose of this document? What is the use of this document? Who is the end audience for this document? Okay, so that we are going to put it into a purpose section. Scope and goals. It means that what is in scope for us. For example, let me take a bank testing we are doing, Bank of America testing we are doing. Is they are going to give their live data, live customers data to us for testing? No. So those related functionalities we may not test. So that is the reason each and every application there will be a scope will be there to the tester. That is something like scope means in scope. What are all the functionalities we need to test? What are all the functionalities we need not to test? That is next section. Features that are not to be tested section. It means that these are all the features we no need to test in the part of our testing. Those testing will be taken care by the client later. Similarly, definitions and abbreviations. Some shortcuts we may use in our test plan. So those definition abbreviations we are going to give it here. SIT, System Integration Testing. UAT, User Acceptance Testing. PVT, Production Validation Testing. NA, not applicable. So these things, so whenever we are using any shortcuts or short names, you can refer in this section for the full abbreviations of those short names. Okay, so next, sixth section we are going to discuss that is about the sixth section we are going to see about the, in this section we are going to see about the references part. So what are all the different documents we need to take it as a references? Like requirement document is a reference to prepare the test plan, business requirements, functional requirements, software requirements. These are all the various documents we required or we need to have knowledge on it before we are going to prepare the test plan document. Okay, next, seventh section is product architecture. So this section is mainly useful for to understand the end-to-end flow of the entire application, where the calls are going on, where the data is going to store, how we are fetching the data, how front end to back end the relationships are going on. So the BA will design as a architecture diagram and we will put that diagram into this particular section. That is about the product architecture section. Next, test environment. To make or to prepare our test environment, what is required for us? What is the hardware required for us? Required hardware. Similarly, what is the softwares required for us? Those all things we are going to put it into this section. You may get a doubt now. Why we are putting all these things into here? Because some of the projects based on the SOW, statement of work with the client. Some projects the client will give us the hardware and softwares. Some projects according to our agreement, our company will give us the softwares and hardware. That is the reason we are going to keep in this section very clearly what's hardware configuration required for us, what software configuration required for us. So this is for the understanding to the each and everybody in our team what softwares, what hardwares we are using in our project. Next, ninth section is assumptions and dependencies. What we are assuming as a tester, what you are assuming, I am going to get billed from the testing team in on time. That is my assumption. Whether the development team is giving in on time or not, that is not the matter. But I am assuming I am going to complete my scenarios and test cases in on time. That is my assumption. My test plan will get approved by the client in on time. So these are all the assumptions. Once these assumptions are true, then happily we can continue with our flow. If any of these things are failed, then we need to think on what is the alternative for that. Similarly, dependencies. From testing side, what are all the various dependencies we are having? We are depending on the client to give us the requirements. We are depending on BA to explain us the requirements. We are depending on BA to clarify our questions along with the client. And we are depending on development team to give us the developed code for us. And we are depending on development team to fix the issues. These are all various dependencies we are having from testing side. So that is 9th section, assumptions and dependencies. We are going to put it into one section in it. Next, 10th one, constraints. Constraints means conditions. We are going to deliver successfully to the client. What are all the various constraints, conditions we are having? Those are all conditions. Condition 1 is we need to get the developed code from the development team without missing the timelines. That is one constraint, condition. And each and every clarification from the testing team should be cleared by the BA without miss. That is a condition. So those all conditions, we are going to put it into a constraints section. Next, 11th one, test coverage. Test coverage means in the previous videos you might have seen I have taken one or two sessions on testing types. Functional testing, GUI testing, functional positive, functional negative, and various other testings like GUI testing part, regression testing, retesting, smoke testing. Those all I have covered. So test coverage section talks about different testing types we have scope on our project. Those all testing types we are going to mention in this test coverage section. Test coverage section talks about all the testing types we are going to do on our application, various types. Like in these types, functional testings will be there, non-functional testings also will be there. Non-functional means compatibility, performance testing, and usability testing, so on and so on. So these are all the non-functional. So in this section test coverage, we need to update both functional testings and non-functional testings. Whatever is the client requirement, those all testing types we need to put it into this test coverage section. Well, very good. Next, 12th section is test strategy or approach. Here we are talking about levels of testing. In the previous videos we have seen black box testing levels. I mean module testing, integration testing, system testing, user acceptance, pre-production and production. So and unit testing will be done by the development team. So these are what are all the various levels of testings we are going to do. That is something like test strategy or our approach. That is about the 12th section. And coming to the next, test deliverables, 13th section. What are all the various deliverables we are going to give it to the client in testing life cycle? First is a test plan, test scenarios, test cases, test case execution results, bug reports, and build stability reports, and application functionality reports. So whatever we are giving it to the client as an output, that is something like deliverable. We are delivering to the client. So those all are nothing but deliverables we are going to give it to the client. Okay, so very well. So next, 14th section, human resource requirement. It means that how many resources are required for our project, how many are manual testers, how many are automation testers, what are their skills, and whether they need any trainings or not, and what are all their responsibilities. Everything we are going to put it into this particular section. That is nothing but human resource requirement section. Next, 15th one, test schedule. In the test schedule, we are going to discuss about what level of testing, when we are starting, who is responsible for it, what documents are required for us, who is approval for that, when it is going to completed, what is our strategy. So like this is a table format. Each and every level of testing, we're going to update all these things. And when we are going to complete our project also, we're going to mention into the test schedule section. So test schedule talks about what are all the various levels of testings we are going to perform, and when it is starting, who is responsible for it, who is approval authority for that, and when it is going to complete it. These all details very clearly we are going to mention into test schedule section. Next one, 16th section, readiness criteria. What is readiness criteria? As a tester, when we will be ready for testing? When we will be ready for testing as a tester? So we need to have ready with our test plan, we need to have ready with our scenarios, test cases, then we will be ready to continue with our testing. So, and also environment also should ready, right? Wherever the development team is deploying, there also the application should be accessible to the testing team. So environment also should be ready. If at all these are ready, then we can ready for testing. So what are all you mentioned be ready for the testing, those all things you are going to put it into a readiness criteria section. 17th one, acceptance criteria. What is acceptance criteria? When you are going to accept the application from the development team, in normal model, you are going to do the smoke testing. In the smoke testing, you are going to validate the smoke related test cases on our application. If at least 70 to 80% of the functionalities are working fine, then you will accept that application for testing, further testing. When you are going to reject it, if it doesn't meet the acceptance criteria, then you are going to reject your application, saying that it is not meeting our acceptance criteria. So acceptance criteria is something like when you are going to accept it, whenever it meets the acceptance criteria, then we are going to accept that application for further testing. Well, 18th section is defect classifications. Total how many types of defects we are going to raise? 4 different type of defects we are going to raise: critical, high, medium, low. So these are all the 4 different type of defects usually we are going to raise it to the development team. So that we are going to mention into a defect classification section. And 19th one is defect management section. How we are going to manage the defects? There is a separate topic is there, defect life cycle. There I am going to discuss more about this particular section. Next, 20th section is testing resumption criteria. When you are going to resume your testing, once you rejected the build, again when you are going to resume, whenever it meets the acceptance criteria, then again you are going to resume with your testing. Once all the showstopper bugs are closed and working fine, then you are going to accept that build for major testing. If at all the showstopper bugs are there, everything is not working, then what is the matter to accept that build for major testing? There is no use. So that we are going to put it into a 20th section. 21st, you are going to see here tools and techniques section. What are all the various tools required for you? What are all the different various techniques you are going to use it? So those are all things we are going to mention into a tools and techniques section. 22nd one, very very important section, risk identification and contingency planning. What is a risk? Unexpected problem is a risk. The problem you are getting unexpectedly in unknown time is a risk. You know the problem, you may get it, but when you are going to get it, you don't know. That is a risk. So you need to identify the risks. So who will identify the risks? As a test lead or test manager, they will identify the risks. And contingency planning is nothing but solutions for those risks. Okay, for example, 2 resources are down with some health issues. They are not available for 1 month. They are very expertise resources in our team, but not going to be available for 2 months. What is your action? How you are going to overcome these problems in your team? That is nothing but your contingency planning. or the development team is keep on delaying the build to deliver to the testing team, then how you are going to manage your timelines? That is a risk. Okay, so these are all the risks we may get it, and what is the solutions also. As a team lead or test manager need to have clear knowledge on this and resolutions for all those risks. Well, 23rd section is test case list. Test case list you need to mention here, but at the time of preparing the test plan you don't have the test cases. Okay, once you created the test cases, then you need to update into this particular document. Well, 24th section is test data. Here this section also, once you start the testing or before going to start the validation testing, then you may get the test data, then that time you need to update here. Last section is 25th section, traceability matrix. I will discuss this one in the future videos about the traceability matrix. So this is about the complete 25 sections of test plan document. If you know all these things, different sections in test plan, anywhere you go, you can able to clear all the interview questions asked on test plan document. Okay, so let me brief you again. Introduction, purpose, scope and goals. Here we are going to see about the in scope related functionalities and features that are not to be tested. It is the out scope, and definitions and abbreviations, shortcuts, short names. If at all we are using, we need to give the abbreviations here, and the references we need to give here. What is the references to prepare the test plan? FRD document or FRS or BRS. Next, product architecture. BA will be, our project manager will prepare the architecture and they will put it into a we will get it from the test leader, manager will get it from the project manager, and he will put it into this document to make everybody clear, to make everybody to understand what is the architecture of our project. Next, test environment. So what is the different hardware, softwares required for our project? So these all different details we are going to put it into there. Assumptions, what are all the we are assuming on our application, and constraints are conditions. Test coverage, what are all the various testing types we are going to perform on this application. Test strategy, what are all the various levels of testings we are going to perform. Test deliverables, what we are going to deliver to the client and periodically, those all will put it into your deliverables. Human resource requirement, staff requirements for testing and the roles and responsibilities of it, we are going to discuss here, or what are all the trainings required for them. Next, 15th one is test schedule, very important one. We are going to see here what levels of testings you are performing, who is the person responsible for it, who is approval authority, and when we are going to complete it. All the clearly dates will be there. This schedule each and everybody in testing team should follow, and accordingly we all will try to meet those tight deadlines. Good. Next, readiness criteria, when you will be ready for testing. Acceptance criteria, once you rejected, when you are going to accept it back. So that is resumption criteria. And defect classification, what are all the different type of defects. Defect management, how you are going to manage these defects. This I am going to talk about defect life cycle in the future videos. Tools required, techniques required for us. Very important section is risk identification and contingency planning. What are all the risks we may get from the testing team? How we need to overcome all those risks? What are all the solutions for those risks? We are going to give it into the risk identification and contingency planning section. Next, traceability matrix we will discuss in the future video. I will cover that. Okay, that's all for this video. Please subscribe to my channel and encourage me. Thank you so much.